Welcome back to the Final Furlong podcast as our countdown to Cheltenham continues. I'm Emmet Kennedy, joined by the King of Leopardstown, Danny Mullins. Danny, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, yeah, it's great to be on again.
Just got a press release from Leopardstown. They've changed the name for next year's festival. It's going to be called the DMRF, the Danny Mullins Festival of Racing. You've just bossed that place for the last 2 years. Did you expect to do so well again this year?
No, I suppose riding 3 winners at the DRF is it's unrealistic, an unrealistic expectation, and it was fantastic for me to be able to do it again. I knew I had a good book of rides going into the weekend, but to have the first 3 winners, that was something extra special.
Kicking off with Etait Temps. He's been deadly at the Dublin Racing Festival for the last 3 years, really. He made a really impressive hurdling debut behind Vauban. Then last year, he was brilliant in the Grade 1 Novice Hurdle. And this year, he's taken the Arkle. The problem is, Danny, the last 2 years, he hasn't quite managed to back that up at Cheltenham. He ran well in the Triumph, but he was beaten further by Vauban. He ran well in the Supreme, but the form was reversed within the pocket. Having ridden him in the Supreme last year, does he give you the feeling, one, that he's just better over fences than he was over hurdles, and two, that he does handle Cheltenham?
I think, the first year in the Triumph, he ran a bit too keen. Last year, I had him in the wrong place in the race and could have finished closer. And this year, I think we've seen more improvement with fence in front of him, and fingers crossed in what looks a very competitive but open Arkle. I think he could go there with a winning chance.
It's a race that's been completely turned on its head by what's happened to Barry Connell's horse, but it has become a wide open race, and I think he should be an awful lot shorter in the betting. It's just a question of, can he handle this? And I heard Patrick doing an interview earlier this week where he was saying something similar, that he just felt like the Supreme, he missed one down, I think the second last didn't quite go to plan, and maybe that exaggerated the margin that he was defeated by in the end. But he also just looks to be a very different prospect over fences, which is kind of strange. He didn't look like he had the scope for fences, but he's a tiny thing, but he's a giant when he faces them.
That's it, and I suppose that's a trait he's shown all through his racing career. He's very brave. Sometimes, he was too brave, but I think he's found the balance of respect and bravery over fences. And Limerick was his first taste of Grade 1 level over fences. He ran a fair race behind Gaelic Warrior, and then backed that up to go and take a few fair scalps in Leopardstown. Like, that Irish Arkle was as good a 2-mile novice chase as has been run probably all this season, and we'll fire in a few extra English horses into it and make it even more competitive come Cheltenham, and who knows, it'd be great to see him come out on top.
Yeah, the fireworks that happened after Limerick meant that he didn't really get the credit he deserved for that run. And I noted with interest that he was back to 10-1 the night before into 3-1, and he faced a really stiff task. I mean, Gaelic Warrior is nigh on unbeatable going right-handed. There's a big question mark about what he can do left-handed, and yet the market was in favour of Etait Temps that day. So you had every right to go for that gap, by the way. But that's a huge run from him over a distance that maybe doesn't suit against a horse that it definitely does. So back left-handed, 2 miles at Cheltenham. Is there a slight doubt in your mind, because there is just in mine, 2 mile 1 at Leopardstown is different to 2 miles at Cheltenham, and that might give Found a 50 an advantage, because he'll be on the front end. And if you're trying to deploy those wait until the last second tactics that you deployed so brilliantly at Leopardstown, can they be as effective at Cheltenham?
I think they can be. I don't think he has to be ridden to wait. The few races where I've waited on him, that's been by design. Tactically looking at those races, I was happy enough to be in that position, but it's not a case of the horse needs to be there. We can adjust on the day to what will suit. If the ground gets softer, it's going to be difficult for the ones on the front end. If it dries out between now and the festival, obviously you want to be a bit closer to the front end.
Do you know if you're going to be able to ride him? Because I'm hearing Hunter's Yarn is going to go.
Hunter's Yarn will probably go there. The chat seems to be this week that Facile Vega is going to go for the 2.5. I hope that's wrong, and I hope he goes for the Arkle, because if that swaps around, there's a good chance Paul might want to be on Etait Temps. So, as with always with my rides, I don't know what I'm going to be on until the 11th hour, but we'll do what we can between now and then to keep the horses in good shape, and fingers crossed I might pick up a few nice spares by the time we get there.
Jamie Codd was saying something similar in the Cheltenham preview about Facile Vega going to 2 miles, but surely he has to step up if he has a chance of winning at Cheltenham.
I don't think so. I think Facile Vega, his reputation as what people are knocking him on, that he was supposed to be the one that was going to take on Marine Nationale. In 2 very disappointing runs in Leopardstown, he's been beat 3 lengths and 4 lengths, I think. So that's not too bad at Grade 1 level to be just touched off and battling hard from the back of the last to the line, where what disappointed me so much with Marine Nationale, he was in a position to strike coming off the bend, but his last furlong was just very disappointing. He didn't run through the line, where Facile Vega has been running through the line, not to the expectations of most, but he hasn't been running drastic. I wouldn't rule him out of an Arkle either.
Now, is this the Danny Mullins thinking of the potential opportunity of winning the Arkle so that Paul has to ride Facile Vega and commit to him, or do you genuinely think he would have a serious chance over 2 miles in the Arkle?
I'll put it to you this way. If Paul was to ride Etait Temps and I was to get a phone call for Facile Vega, I'd be going out with a big expectation as well.
Okay, it's a good answer. I like that. Barry Connell did have a winner a couple of days ago, but it's been a quieter enough year for him than usual, certainly than this time last year. And Marine Nationale is going in with a very, very different profile. He was an unbeaten novice hurdler, a Grade 1 winner going into Cheltenham. There was every reason to be confident. Now you're looking at a 5-2 favourite who should have been odds on, who really, if he is the horse that they were saying he is, should have won the last day. And just from your own point of view, is it a potential lack of experience that cut him out? Because he just seemed to be caught at fences a few times where I was expecting a big jump. They weren't coming for Michael, and the excuse just doesn't really wash either. It can't have been the ground. He's won a Royal Bond on basically heavy ground. He definitely won his beginner's chase on heavy ground. How can he be beaten by the ground on soft?
I think possibly with soft ground, the issue would be maybe for me his wind. If I'm correct in saying he had a wind operation this year before he ever ran, and stepping up to Grade 1 level, there's no hiding place. We didn't go a crazy gallop in Leopardstown early, but we still went from Flagfall, a solid Grade 1 gallop, and once we crossed the road down the back and started to pour it on more, there was no hiding place there, and maybe that's what's found him out, on soft ground going that gallop. But you're not going to go any slower in Cheltenham. An Arkle is a proper champion chase trial, and they don't hang about.
No. And if the weather stays as it is, it's kind of pointless to be speculating. But if it does, it's still going to be soft ground on day 1 at Cheltenham. And the way it's been the last few years, the way they watered, it's almost certainly going to have soft in the going anyway. So that's not going to make life any easier for him. Hopefully, you're going to be on board Etait Temps, and the very best of luck to you with him. I'm torn between him and Founder 50, but I think a lot of people will want to be with Etait Temps. And he's a serious player. Kargese, whichever pronunciation, she's very, very good for Kenny Alexander. She was very free on her debut for you at the graded race at the Leopardstown Christmas meeting, but she was absolutely deadly in the Grade 1 at the DRF. You clearly knew her better. She clearly stepped forward an awful lot from that run, and she's a major player in the Triumph.
Yeah, I think, at the Dublin Festival, it wasn't really down to me. It was down to the filly. She relaxed and she enjoyed it, and she got to prove the ability that I thought she had post race at Christmas. And if she can settle into Cheltenham, it's going to be away from home. It's an away game for her, and one with that fragile mentality is always difficult. But if she settles into Cheltenham for the week, I think she'll have a very big chance of winning the Triumph. There's very little between, the first few home of Willie's from Leopardstown, and Sergino looks very good in what he's done so far. Maybe more visually impressive, I think Sergino is, where the Irish form, I would hope, has a bit more strength and depth.
I think that's one of the things that's being said is he's won by 10 lengths. It turns out now Bartlett Road is going to miss Cheltenham, which is a shame. Maybe he's a short runner on the new track anyway, and the old course might have suited him better. But If in an alternate reality, Salvatore Mundi went to Nicky and Sergino went to Willie, where would Sergino have finished at the Dublin Racing Festival? And would he have been 10 lengths clear? I don't think he would have been. He probably would have just been in the mix in and around. So instead of it being that this is an average bunch of juveniles with a bunch finish, it's probably this is a very good crop of juveniles. And it just happens that she is right now the best of them. And Willie has won 3 of the last 4 Triumph Hurdles, and 2 of those were fillies. So he's going to have to give her the sex allowance, and that's not going to be easy.
No, it's a great advantage that she's going to have, that £7, especially on the new course and a long slog up that straight. It's going to make a huge difference. So fingers crossed she can go there. From a betting point of view, I think you'd have to side with the likes of Kargese or Margeborough, Stormheart at bigger prices. But on what I think of horses' ability, I think they're all fairly closely matched.
If Paul was to choose Kargese, or Kargese, whatever the pronunciation is, sorry, Kenny Alexander, of the ones who are in behind, who would you be siding with?
You'd have to think Margeborough was the one who has the most potential to improve from Leopardstown. A fine big horse, ran a little bit keen having his first run and just ran out of it late on. You think he has potential to improve. Stormheart probably learned a lot in Leopardstown, where he'd won in Punchestown. It was a stop-start gallop, and he showed a great turn of foot to quicken down the straight and win well that day. But, it was a truly run race in Leopardstown where he can learn plenty from that and would still be in the mix as well.
Dancing City. He was terrific at the Dublin Racing Festival, beating, I think, a horse that's being very underestimated in Predator's Gold, who's been second in 2 Grade 1s now, one of them to the second highest rated novice hurdler in training, according to time form anyway, in Caldwell Potter, who unfortunately is not going to go to Cheltenham. But your fellow was really, really good. He's clearly stepped up on his first 2 runs over hurdles. He's also paying a massive compliment to Ballyburn's form, having beaten him easily in a bumper last year. How impressed were you with him on the day?
He was good. What he'd shown me in Navan was solid and a step up from the previous day, but he needed to step up again to be good enough to win at the Dublin Festival, and he's done that. Won a good competitive Grade 1, as you say. Predator's Gold's form is solid, but to win an Albert Bartlett, I think he needs to step up again. And what we've seen of him at home, like the season has gone so far, he's stepped up again. So fingers crossed he's going to be bang there in the mix.
The Albert Bartlett's a really tough race. The only short price winner to win it in the last 10 years is Monkfish, who was 5-1. Everything else has been a massive price. And there's no real profile for the race either. It's not that it's a battle-hardened type. It can be a lightly raced type who wins it too. It just tends to be a bit of a lottery. But do you feel that he has all the attributes required for the new course and for that stamina test on the day?
I think so. He showed he was able to jump out, make the run-in Leopardstown. Rachel wanted to take the lead off me. I was happy to take a lead, sit in the pocket, wait for a good jump at the second last before I started to let him down to gallop. And he battled very hard all the way up the straight in Leopardstown, which is going to be what will be needed in Cheltenham on the new course in an Albert Bartlett. That is a proper slog to the finish.
2 final questions for you, and it's about novice chasers and novice hurdlers. Factifile has looked absolutely deadly, although you can question the form for sure, but times are very impressive. Aside from jumping out to the right, which is really harsh criticism, he was brilliant on his last 2 runs at Leopardstown, and Willie has referenced a few times how impressive the speed figures were. Gaelic Warrior, on the other hand, can that horse really win going left-handed at Cheltenham?
Gaelic Warrior, yeah, he's got such an engine, but so mentally fragile. To see him probably look in trouble 3 out in Leopardstown wasn't him at his peak. Factifile was very good on the day, but you would have loved to see them maybe head for the last, battling it out. Factifile had the race won before they even straightened to the second last. So, Gaelic Warrior, write him off at your peril, but I'd struggle to say hand on heart he's going to go and win in Cheltenham. His form while it's not brutal, he's never at his best in Cheltenham. And on the back of that run, it just leaves a little question mark. But at the same time, he has the engine and he could turn up. He'd probably be running in a race on the new course, which will suit him a whole lot better than the old course. There's just that little bit more room on the new course.
Yeah, we can see aerial footage of Cheltenham in the background for this, which Trish put together. Thank you, Trish. I don't think she did the drone footage, by the way, but it does get to show you that the old course, you were constantly leaning left. You're always turning left, even jumping left as well. So the Arkle would be a disaster for him. But the new course, it's not as bad, but you are still, like, you've ridden it several times. You've won there, obviously, famously, twice on Flooring Porter in the Stairs Hurdle. You are still leaning to the left. That would be massively against him.
It would, but, all the way down the back straight, you've got fences in more of a straight line. For the old course, you shift out more to your right to swing a tight left down the hill. You've got that fence down the hill, tight fence off a tight bend, and two fences quickly off the bend there coming up the home straight. Where the new course, fourth last tricky fence off the bend that comes at you quick, third last is on a straight, and you've only got an elbow and then two in front of you to climb the hill. I think that the new course would give him his chance, but you're betting on him rather than investing in him, where Facile, I think, could be an investment.
Yeah. Is there any chance Willie will change his mind and put Facile in the Turners?
Facile could be still qualified for the Supreme. What's the last supplementation stage?
Good answer. Very good answer. Speaking of the Supreme, and final question for you.
If we're talking about what Willie could do, I'm sure he could be supplemented for the Supreme this week.
Willie Mullins bingo, and he is still a novice hurdler. He hasn't even jumped him yet, so yeah, why not? He's already got so much strength and depth for those novice hurdles, though. Ballyburn, Mystical Power, Tullyhill, two of them are going to go for the Supreme. One of them is bound to go for the Bearing Bingham. Atlantique, reading Tommy wrong, it sounds like it's going to go for the potato race. And you've got a Predator's Gold as well, who's obviously got grade 1 form. How do you sort all those horses out, Danny?
Yeah, it's tricky. I suppose Mystical Power looked like a speed horse that will probably go for the Supreme. I think he's got a big chance of winning that. I thought Ballyburn would probably have a decent chance of winning either race, but could win the Bearing Bingham, it's called now, easier than he could win the Supreme. And for me, I think he'll go there. I'd say it's probably 60-40 saying that he's going to go for the Supreme, but that's going to be Willie's decision late on when he knows how well he's working in the next week or so. That
is music to my ears if he goes for the Bearing Bingham, because it's a tough pill to take, the fact of us going for the Brown Advisory. But if Ballyburn goes Bearing Bingham, all is forgiven. It's all good. And that's the thing about us bettors. We have absolutely no entitlement to where a horse should run. That is entirely up to the connections decision. And Willie Mullins, when he makes a decision about where to send a horse at Cheltenham, he's rarely, if ever, wrong. Danny, who are you looking forward to riding most at Cheltenham?
I'd love to get to ride Kargese again. I'm in a position where I've ridden so many good horses this year. Etait Temps, I think, would be a great spin in the Arkle. And who knows, there could be some others lying in the wings, but it'll be interesting to see between now and then what happens. Fingers crossed they all get there in one piece, and Paul Townend is in a very tricky situation of trying to pick the best of them.
If you get the leg up on Cantico and the Champion Bumper, I'll be even more confident, but that's going to be a tricky one for Patrick and for Paul to decide who to ride, because, well, Patrick was saying to me at the start of the season, it's a smaller Champion Bumper team this year. It's still a very strong one. Danny, best of luck. I hope it's a successful Cheltenham for you. I hope it's a safe one for you, and please God, we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Thanks a million.
And thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe on the podcast app and on YouTube. We'll talk to you again very, very soon. Look after yourself and each other. God bless.